And hello everyone. So, gotten a couple of requests from a couple of folks asking about Arcolinux. And you'll often see on a lot of Linux distro reviews on YouTube, quite a lot of people use Arcolinux. But what is Arcolinux? So, Arcolinux, of course, is Arch Linux that's been customized and being rebuilt and giving you the opportunity as a school. So imagine if you were going to learn everything you could about how to build and customize your own Arch-based distro. That's where Arcolinux comes in. And Arcolinux, of course, has the university learning path. As you can see here on the screen, they have various downloads, various tools, quite a couple of other distros are built on Arco. I know Zero Linux is definitely one of them. And if you look here at the learning phase from the Arco University, broken down into different phases, and it basically covers different things you learn, different interfaces, installers, creating your own installation, up to 8 phases. And I must just give credit where it's due. On YouTube, you will find so much info about Arcolinux from the creators, from the team, from the founders. It's quite awesome. It's really great stuff. Having said that, if you were a new user coming to Linux, okay, now we can debate all we want about if you're a new user and are you going to use Arcolinux. Forget about that. But let's say you're a new user and you came here to this page. Cool, quite a lot of stuff on the web page, great. And now I'm not going to criticize the distro about the web page, but check here. Let's say I didn't know where I was going, so I'm going to go applications. It's going to talk about file managers as an example. Okay, great. And I go to general. Okay, I'm going to go to start here. So if I would go on learning path again, it would take me through to this. I would be completely and utterly confused. But hey, let's assume I'm a user that's not brand new, and I'm going to go to downloads. And then I would see this. ISOs, torrents, more info, that's fine. But then I would ask, what the heck is Arcolinux LSDB, LSDB, LTS even? I would be completely and utterly confused. Heck, as a pretty seasoned Linux veteran, I'm still confused. Anyway, lower down on this page, there's actually a screen that actually talks about the difference of them. So, primary Arcolinux has basically everything under the sun that you're going to find under XL. Uses XFCE as default and can be installed via Calamari and has the tweak tools and uses the Arch user repo, etc. Bear in mind, this version comes with a bunch of software pre-installed on it as well. So, bear that one in mind. XS or extra small, basically no software is pre-installed, pretty bare bones, but the installer gives you the opportunity to select which software where you want. Then you get D as in decide the desktop, which again is pretty similar to the others. But again, this time you get to not only choose the software, but you get to choose your desktop. So remember, extra small comes pre with XFCE 4. D is your choice. And of course, there's Arcolinux B, which is you choose your desktop. And you can choose the additional software you want during Calamari's installer. Of course, this other great link here that you can click on gives you the exact same thing here as this interface, as well as a whole breakdown of how close to pure Arcolinux is. So what I eventually did was, or what I eventually figured out, because I thought, hey, Arcolinux B makes the most sense, is if you look at Arcolinux B, let's just use this, SourceForge. You actually choose which desktop environment you want right at the beginning of it. from the live CD. I didn't realize that originally, and I really think that could just be made a little bit clearer somewhere here. Again, I'm just being pedantic. Having said that, though, I went ahead, downloaded Arcolinux B, and got the GNOME or GNOME edition. And to be honest with you, I'm actually running it on my machine at the moment and have had little or no issues at all. But what I'm going to do is walk you through the setup and show you how it's done. So let's just go here and just find my ISO quickly. Arcolinux. And we're just going to call it Arch. Linux is fine. Give a 4 gigs of memory. 4 virtual cores. 40 gigs is more than enough. And let's just call it Arcolinux. And finish up. And as you can see here, you can go straight and use NVIDIA if you've got NVIDIA hardware, or open source if you are not using NVIDIA hardware. What I can tell you so far after having used Arco, really great distro, pretty close as always to normal Arch. Kind of reminds me in a way of Endeavour, but imagine if you had Endeavour and you gave a lot more options of software to install out of the box. That I would find would be Arco. So I can kind of see why it's very popular to use for quite a number of YouTubers as well. Really quick and easy to get yourself up and running with it. So let's give it a few seconds here to start up. Come on, any moment. Any freaking moment. Okay, see, it takes a couple of seconds in this as well. Why did I choose GNOME or GNOME? I just felt a bit like a change, and recently I haven't had the best of experiences with KDE 5.25, and I thought, oh well, what the heck, just try GNOME for a change. So here it is, pretty standard GNOME desktop environment. And gives you two options here. You get the easy install or the advanced installation, and the difference between those two is easy install basically installs straight what's from this on this ISO. Advanced install gives you additional options of software you can install. So I'm just going to do advanced installation. And as you can see here on the left hand side, there's so many options. It can be quite overwhelming. So if you're a new user, please use Easy Installer. Again, here different kernel options that you're going to choose. I do like the fact it does give you some of these out of the box. By default, it has the normal Linux kernel and nothing much fancy there. On my own machine, I use Linux Zen kernel with some gaming, but of course you don't have to do that. Here, if you have additional software drivers, you can use those. What login manager do you want? So I actually, on mine, because of GNOME, I actually chose GDM, but it installed STM anyway on my installation, even though I picked GDM. Granted, I could have gone and disabled STM and manually enabled GDM on the setup, but I just opted to just leave it with STM. Here, of course, since this is the advanced installer, you can again choose which desktop environment you actually want. If you just chose the easy installer, it would just be GNOME or GNOME 3. Of course, for this, I'm going to choose, you guessed it, GNOME. Quite a lot of array of desktop environments here. If you can think of the desktop environment's name, it's probably going to be on this list. Next here, a bunch of their Arcolinux's tools, meta packages, the applications. I'm just going to choose their tweak applications so I can show you once we've got it installed. Additional themes, wallpapers, packages. If you don't need it now, don't install it. Don't make the mistake of trying to install every single wallpaper and icon theme you're going to have, because it's just going to slow your machine down if you have to list all of it. communication software, so different items of software here you can choose. Pretty standard. Same with development. Interesting, they've got Sublime Text 4 as an option here. I know it's not open source. I will admit that I do quite like Sublime Text Reader. Office, no Office Suite here by default, although you do have the options of LibreFresh, LibreStill, and a couple of other products I haven't even heard of as well. I'm just going to skip those. Bunch of fonts. I always like to have a lot of fonts installed, just in case it's needed for whatever applications. I normally would just hit fonts. And next screen, audio, any specific audio and video software you want. Again, normal decent array of software here and good general generic selections. Of course, if your software isn't here after installation, you can install it using Pacman or whatever app you want to use if you're going to install from the AUR. Cloud software options here as well, mail clients. I'm just gonna, let me just install a browser just for, let's just do Firefox, it's fine. Again, theming again. I'm just gonna skip this for now. Graphics, if you wanted to install GIMP or Blender games. Gamer, of course, your Meta Steam for NVIDIA, Intel, AMD, Legendary, Lutris, all of these. Proton. Terminals. I'm just going to install Alacrity as well. Hit next. File managers. I chose Nautilus because Nautilus default with GNOME, or file managers they call it these days. But again, you could install another one. USB utilities, all here. General utilities, depending on the partition type. Now, I thought this was quite interesting. A lot of the distros first start giving you the options of partitions and then the utilities and software. So, of course, only if you're going to use BTRF or ButterFS are you going to use something like Snap or Timeshift. I personally use Snapper because I use ButterFS in my install. Further down, of course, applications for installers. They do give you the option to install, for example, Yay. So if you're going to install stuff from the AUR, I'm going to install Yay. I generally use Yay. I know there are other options as well. And no specific reason I use Yay. I use Yay because it's when I started with Arch. I just got accustomed to it and it's still being developed. Any additional utilities, you name it, it's here. I do kind of find it weird to find Google Earth listed under as an utility, like in the same screen as Systemd Manager. But hey, I ain't gonna judge. Applications, accessories, VirtualBox for Linux install. So this is, of course, not if you're installing it on VirtualBox. This is if you want VirtualBox installed with installation. Really great, it will rebuild itself. And so glad to see this, the DKMS by default. Arcolinux Dev, additional tools and software, location, not too worried here. I'm going to hit erase disk. I'm not going to do a swap since it's, actually, you know what, let me just swap to file. Swap to file, and I'm going to keep it as ext4 because you have multiple options of file systems to choose from. Because at this point, call it Arcolinux Virtual. Going to use an extremely strong password. Use it as root account password as well. Install. And at this point, you guessed it, it's going to do what you often see with Calamaris. It's going to download and install. You can toggle this. And I'm going to pause this. It actually takes quite a bit of time. When I did it on my machine, it took 5 to 10 minutes. And depending on the extra software you've chosen, it would take longer. So let's pause and I'll be right back.